Are we qualified to be giving mental health advice? I'll stand by it every day that I can give better advice than a 21-year-old with a bachelor's degree fresh out of uni doing a psych degree.
We will be the men's #1 wellbeing charity in Australia. When we were up the Sunshine Coast, an older lady started walking past. It was like, are these guys professionals? They shouldn't be doing this. One of the other girls turned around and went, without these guys, I wouldn't have my partner. We've got women that are literally going to bat for us because of the difference we're making in men's lives and particularly their loved ones. So if you can get the women on board that are supporting the men, everyone wins. Like we've said, it's not a competition. It's not women versus men. It's not men versus women. It's everyone coming together for the greater good.
Welcome to the Better Bloke Podcast. I'm Matty.
I'm Rob.
And we're just a pair of average blokes on a mission to try and be a little bit less average.
We're going to speak about all things highs and lows of what it feels like to be a bloke, plus speak to some legends along the way about what it takes to be a better bloke. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to the Better Bloke Podcast, where we are going to recap the last 6 months of what we have learned. And it has been amazing.
A bit of a whirlwind. So we kicked off this thing quite a while ago and we've done, I guess, everything we said we were going to do. But also it's I guess we've learnt stuff, right? It's gone in directions where guys gave us some support or they liked this or they didn't like this. And we learned a bunch of things. So we've come up with a lot stronger of an image of what the Better Bloke project actually is. And I mean, it's all going pretty well. So where do you want to start it off?
I want to start off with just your views in the last 6 months. Like what you just said, we've learnt things along the way and all that sort of stuff. What have you learned?
Yeah, so we came from Blokes advice. So we knew that there was a way that these guys needed to be dealt with that wasn't being dealt with by other charities out there. We're not saying they don't do good work. We're just saying we know there's things that can be done differently and it can have a better effect. And that was the ethos of the Better Bloke project from the start. Our mission was essentially to reduce the amount of guys committing suicide by giving them different frameworks, different ways of dealing with things, taking 5 steps back from being a last resort sort of hotline to equip them with adequate methods of dealing with things, whether it's listening to guys talk about their story on the podcast, creating resources, creating content, or providing the platform like Blokes Advice where they can network and, engage in a community about some of these issues. So that's where we started, and it's largely what we've done, but there was some things that we thought were going to hit. Like one of the very first events we did was like quite a heavy mental health pathways night, where we teamed up with Lee, a psychologist that was local to us, and we brought guys in to talk about different ways they can access mental health care plans, what they can do when that runs out, where is the funding, and pretty much how to deal with that stuff. And we didn't have the best attendance.
No, that was probably a comedic of errors, the whole thing, because I think there was multiple crashes on the way both north and south.
Traffic was also an issue.
Proper cooked. We decided to do it midweek to prevent any boys from maybe hitting the piss a little bit too hard, because being our first event, we weren't sure if boys were just going to see this as a reason to get on the piss with the boys. We were very wrong with that. The boys that came didn't want to get on the piss. They were there for 100% the right reasons. But we just felt that we probably could have carried it out a little bit better. Maybe going that heavy, that quick, perhaps it wasn't the right answer.
Well, in hindsight, like we said, we wanted to approach it differently.
Yeah.
And then we kind of didn't stay authentic to what we were saying we were going to do. We're like, okay, let's do a mental health event straight off the
every other charity does.
Yeah. So, we looked at that and we're like, okay, it was powerful for the boys that came. It was a good event. And it did have impact, but by the same token, we wanted to engage more of the community. Yep. That's what it's been about. How do we connect blokes so we can frame like them all together to help each other out and then develop them as better blokes through doing that? And that's when we sort of rolled into, let's go to the other end of the spectrum, and we created the barbecue and chill events.
Yep.
So we pretty much literally looked at that and said we're going to get a couple boys in a room talking about mental health specifically to let's forget about mental health. Let's get guys together offline in the real world under the guise of Better Bloke so they understand that, this is something that we're dealing with, but it's not come here to talk about your problems. It's come here to connect, and whatever flows out of you, whatever connections you make, it's going to be that 5-step back approach where, we are going to see benefit of that. And those events have been like super successful.
They've been probably my favorite thing that we've done so far is creating those. And even as much as we're getting plenty of guys coming to these events are 100% family friendly. So like guys are bringing their kids, they're bringing their partners, there was a bloke came the other day, he brought his mum. It was unreal. Had an unreal chat with his mum. She thought it was amazing what we were doing. The amount of women that are getting behind us purely just from coming to these family events, because we understand that blokes work 5 to 6 days a week. The last thing they want to do, and this is coming from a couple of blokes here ourselves, the last thing we want to do is then spend time away from our families or loved ones to go and then do something that may benefit ourselves. Guys don't do that shit. They go, nah, look, I'll just bury whatever it is down and I won't talk about anything. I won't go out there and communicate. I won't go out there and network or meet new people and all this sort of stuff. Where if we make it a family event, it's a day outing for the family. Like, why wouldn't you go to that?
And that's what it's turned into, because at this stage we've done them all over Southeast Queensland, and we're trying to hit all these different communities so you don't have to travel so far. But there's been people that have come to one and then they pop up at the next one 80 kilometers away because they engaged with it. Like, I know there's been a bunch of even the girls creating friendships, and they're like, okay, this could be my little thing. It's almost like a run club or something like that. We've created, I don't know what you'd say, like,
it's a community off the screen.
It's a little community, and we've done it very quickly over the handful of just a few events, which makes me excited for where this could go, because we obviously know we want to go Australia-wide. So we're already talking about doing Sydney and Melbourne, and combining them with some of the other events we got upcoming. And we got boys reaching out all the time. Do one in Townsville, do one in Canberra, like all over the place. So I think it's cool that we know we could be doing more. We just need to get to the stage to do it.
I think the big thing with that is that a lot of people need to remember that we are doing this all off the back of, one, our own pockets, and two, the support from people buying Blokes Advice merch. This isn't our full-time gig. We're doing this all for the love of wanting to help other blokes. And there's only so much that we can do while we're both working full-time and have families and that. It's one of those things that we will get to you eventually. Like, we can promise you that. We just can't say when, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're not one of those big charities. So thank you to everyone that has supported with the BA merch, and there's been a couple people help us along the way. So shout outs to them. By the time this episode does come out, we have gone live with the fundraising.
Yep.
So like, we're not expecting big things. We're not being like, okay, this is going to turn everything around. But these barbecues might cost us, $400 or $500 to put on. All that little bit helps so we can do more of this. So that's pretty much it. So go and donate to us, please. And we promise we're not one of those charities with 80% admin fees.
No, we are taking $0. But I think the thing that makes it the most special was that $400 or $500, the networks that we've seen formed just locally from like a few families or a few men within that area, it is actually like, I wouldn't even say it could be life-changing. It is 100% life-changing. Boys are making these bonds with each other, and like, male loneliness is such a fucking issue at the moment that everyone's so present on their screens, they're not present in person. I haven't seen one phone out when people are in there. They're actually living in the moment, talking face-to-face, communicating. They're having a good time. They're eating snags and bread. It's just nothing short of amazing.
Yeah. The one of the last ones we did, my old boy came out, and like, he kind of watches what I do, but to him, I don't know, he sees it and he thinks it's cool or whatever. But when he actually came there, and they're real people that came out for this thing that we're doing, and he was just straight in. He was having chats with everyone, and I'm like, that's the point. Like, if I can get him doing it, we can get everyone doing it. And that was very cool to see, because I know what he's like.
It's pretty special when you're seeing someone that you know so closely to opening up in that situation of something that I wouldn't even say we've built something, we're trying to build. And more people are getting involved with it. It's very, very special to see.
Yeah. Tell us that story of the lady that was walking past the Sunshine Coast event.
So when we were up the Sunshine Coast, because obviously, like I mentioned, it's a very family event and there's been a lot of women that are coming and the girls are starting to make their own little clique there. So they go and sit in there and thing, and like the girls have their own chats between each other. What they talk about is completely between them, much like what us blokes talk about between us blokes stays between us. But the missus was telling me an older lady started walking past and came up very Karen-like and was like, "Are these guys professionals? They shouldn't be doing this. And one of the other girls turned around and went, "Without these guys and what they've done and what they're doing, I wouldn't have my partner." And it was pretty special for my missus to hear that sort of something that we've been doing for so long and starting to roll out to communities face to face has made such an impact where we've got women that are literally going to bat for us because of the difference we're making in men's lives and particularly their loved ones. And we've said it time and time again, the whole purpose behind being a better bloke is not just being there for yourself. It's like, if we can get the women on board, that's only going to help cement what we're doing. Like the whole thing, happy wife, happy life, it's fucking true, man. It 100% is true. So if you can get the women on board that are supporting the men, everyone wins. It's like we've said, it's not a competition. It's not women versus men. It's not men versus women. It's everyone coming together for the greater good.
Yeah, it raises an interesting point. Are we qualified to be giving mental health advice? And I have spoken about this before. No, we're not psychologists. No, we're not this. We're none of that. But what we do have is 8 years of experience dealing with guys, dealing with problems and seeing what works, what doesn't. So I'll stand by it every day that I can give better advice in a lot of scenarios, not all of them, than a 21-year-old with a bachelor's degree fresh out of uni doing a psych degree or his psych degree.
I won't stand there trying to compete with a 21-year-old fresh out of uni with a psych degree.
No, but you do.
He
That's
can
the
do his thing. I'll do my thing. And that's the whole thing. There is so many different ways. The human mind, the human body, everything works so differently that you can have someone that goes, yep, it only helps me if I speak to a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, all of those trained professionals. And then you've got all these boys that are speaking to us, both in person, over the phone, over text message, posting in Blokes Advice. Those guys, they don't want to speak to those people. Or if they have, they just haven't found the right one. It's not a one shoe fits all thing.
Yeah, I'm not being arrogant about it. I'm saying don't tell me it doesn't work.
No, we know it works.
I know it works.
100%.
100 times over. So yeah, I think that's awesome. So that was always the plan. We were going to do it off our own backs because we wanted to show guys that we were serious about this. But when it comes to it, we started this thing because we got a fucking mission.
We do.
We sat there last year. We laid out 2,500 shoes on the lawns of Parliament for the guys that took their own lives. And the whole mission of this is to make no shoes on that lawn. These are boys that we didn't need to lose, and we're losing them every single day, seven a day. And we know we've seen the impact of what we've had at Blokes Advice that we can make a difference. And, we're just two guys at the end of the day. But with the community that we have, the impact that we know we can do with, having resources, we'll be able to take the cause that the Better Bloke Project stands for and go out and do more of these events that we're talking about. And that's where we need you guys to help. So if you actually support this cause and you can help us help other dudes, that's where, it comes into play. Having 300,000 dudes in a group, we can make a difference together. So jump over to the Better Bloke Project if you do support that cause, and you can actually donate to help us roll this out to more people quicker.
It is very much a team effort. Like, we couldn't do this, like Matty said, we're just two dudes. But together, we're over 300,000. That's a large percentage of Australia. And that's just the men. That's not including our partners that support what we do, your partners that support what we do. It's pretty fucking incredible.
Yeah, like we've shown you, we're doing all this stuff. We're driving this home. We're not stopping. We're going to figure out a way to do it one way or another. But anything you can fucking do to help us do this faster and stop dudes dying. That's pretty much what we're here to do. We got invited down to a big event in Sydney with 1 Point Health, and it was based exactly on that. They wanted guys that weren't professionals, right? They could have had a doctor, but they found us through what we're doing here.
Well, they did have doctors.
They did have doctors.
Yeah.
And they put us as the keynote speakers.
They did.
Because we've run a group with hundreds of thousands of people. Like, yeah, doctors see patients all day, every day. We get over 10,000 posts a year. Like, the volume of issues that men have that we see and we're learning and we're dealing with, it does enable us to talk about this stuff. And yeah, I think that was super cool that they reached out to us just because of this project and said, hey boys, we need to hear from you.
I think the fact that we see that many posts and they are all so different, and I know we've mentioned it before, but we are somewhat of blokologists.
Blokologists, baby.
We know blokes, and that's what gives us somewhat of an authority to be able to speak about this, because we have, like you said, we've got 8 years of seeing day in, day out what blokes are dealing with, seeing how each other get around each other and help sort out those issues purely just by speaking on them. So 8 years, that's what? How long's a master's degree?
Oh, I don't know. How long's a master's degree? Like 2 years, you do your bachelor's at 3 and then your doctorate's probably 3. We're doctors.
We're doctors of blokes.
You could say that. But it's like you said, it's not just the guys asking and seeing what the problems are. It's seeing the advice given in the comments and what people relate to and what actually works. So yeah, it's like seeing this full circle of problems and solutions over years and years and years on all these different things that dudes do. Then when we got up and spoke at this event, how did you find that? Because suddenly you were thinking that, hey, maybe we're not qualified, but we always had the answers because we'd seen this shit before.
Very much so. And I think it was one of those things that it came down to what we were speaking about. And funnily enough, we had a full speech written out to talk about all the issues that we had. And we wrote this weeks in advance. Because we were keynote speakers, we spoke last. Everything that we had written down to speak about was spoken about by all of these professionals that spoke before us. So the fact that we hadn't been keynote speakers before, but we knew every single issue that these professionals spoke about, and we'd already done our research and spoken and ready to speak about it, it sort of goes to show that, yeah, we know what we're doing.
We're aligned. And yeah, I don't know. It's great to see. And there's definitely more events like that on the horizon.
Definitely.
So yeah, appearances at events like that to help like a wider amount of people is good. Like give us an audience in real life and we can further, push this cause that we're trying to do. And I think the ethos behind it is going to resonate with people.
And I think the reason that the ethos resonates with people is because we are blokes ourselves and we don't take that maybe normal approach as to what most other charities do. We know what works for men because we are men ourselves. We've got all these years of experience of speaking to blokes, hence the reason Better Bloke. Why would we change what we've been doing for the past amount of time to do it, I guess, the textbook way of how everyone says it's working? Because we're still losing a shitload of blokes every single day.
And as much as we talk about it ain't weak to speak and it's mainstream, these conversations, suicides went up between 22 and 23. Are they going to go up again in 2024? Because an upward trajectory on suicides means what we're doing as a whole, as a community, isn't working that good. I get it, changing times and all that, but that number should be going down.
It should very much be going down.
So, yeah, that's a mission. Fuck.
But like we said, we can't do this on our own. We need every single person's help supporting us for this cause.
Yeah, and that could just be as simple as engaging with this stuff as well, like, dropping comments and sharing your advice and just relating to it and making other guys see it and think they're not alone in this stuff. And we're not trying to be super soppy about it. That's kind of the point of the Better Bloke project. We wanted to do things a different way. And I guess that's a good reason to get behind the way we're doing things is that we're doing things a way that you know. We're doing things the Blokes advice way or the Blokey way or what is now the Better Bloke way. And we're not answering to a board of directors that's scared of, maybe towing some line and pissing off some investor. Like, we're doing it the way we want to do it because we know it works.
100%. And just with us two, we are two very different blokes. So how you operate is very different how I operate. And we are both using ourselves as the example to go out there and showcase to other blokes that if we can do it, you can do it. It's as simple as that. And
it's bigger than us too. Like, yeah, we're the two guys in front of the camera, but there's multiple people involved in this project.
So many.
So the network is, we're talking about stuff. The podcast is just something we do. It's bigger than a podcast. It's all these events. It's all the things we're getting into, workplace training. We're building out resources for guys to access. The actual end goal is much, much bigger. It's a full scale, the ultimate men's Australian charity for helping guys live a better, stronger, healthier, happier life.
Everything. We want to be, I'll reframe that. We will be the men's #1 wellbeing charity in Australia.
Yeah. So
promise you that.
So it's this massive network. And I guess what we've done now is 6 months in, we've started the movement. We've started the ball rolling on an entire movement, and we got the legs to actually do it now.
Yep.
So there's other stuff that we've done. Like let's chat about that. So other events, like you teed up with Mary.
Mary from Are You Bogged, Mate?
Are You Bogged, Mate?
Helped her as a facilitator for one of her bogged breaks. And the only way I can describe that is incredible. So what Mary does is she takes rural blokes, flies them from all over Australia, and she'll have a 4-day retreat in Queensland and does a whole bunch of what most people would never even imagine, all related to essentially trying to give these blokes better coping mechanisms.
Yeah, her whole mission is raising awareness for suicide in the bush because country boys have a bit of a problem with that sort of stuff. They, like you said earlier, dealing with loneliness, being disconnected from communities, all that. So it was cool that you got involved in that.
It was something that, and I've spoken to Mary about this many, many times, it cemented what we were doing. To see the way that she does it on a scale was incredible. But then to know that we're also doing that, maybe not just for the rural blokes like she does, and she doesn't just help rural blokes, she'll help out anyone that's sort of around. But to know that our ethoses are so in line and see her doing it, it just reinvigorates. To know that both of our ethoses were so in line and see what she's doing was so fulfilling to know that we're on the right path.
Another one I'm excited for is Summer Nats 2025. So it's just around the corner, really. But we did it last year this year technically, in 2024 at the start of the year. And we hadn't gone live with the Better Bloke project yet. We were still doing our paperwork to get the charity up and running. But we went as Blokes Advice. And Blokes Advice has always had the similar connotation. So here we have these rough, tough rev heads, the auto boys, and they were coming up to us in a situation that is not built to have these chats, and they were talking to us. So now that we've done this, I think it's going to be, what's the word?
I think blokes are going to be more forthcoming with information.
Incredibly so. It's going to be like an exaggerated effect where we're going to be able to be there. We're going to have Better Bloke there, and guys will be able to come up and have these chats and engage with us, and I'm very excited to do that.
And I think it's the thing with that is, even without Better Bloke, when we were just Blokes Advice, these guys were coming up just to say g'day to us because they were recognizing a familiar name or a familiar face on the internet. They may not necessarily been having these conversations, these heavy, deep conversations, but even if they weren't and they were just coming up to say g'day, they knew that someone was there in an environment that may not have previously had those capacities to have conversations like that. They knew someone was there. So they were like, it's so good to see you blokes here. Because That's the whole thing. The great thing about what we're doing with going to these events is these are the type of events that most people just turn a blind eye to and go, oh, they're not the ones that talk. They don't do this. They don't do that. Or this isn't the place to have those conversations. Why the fuck not? Why?
And again, that just comes down to how we're doing things different. And I don't even think we know. It worked this year. It's going to work better next year.
We recently had another event that it wasn't necessarily our own, but the Anglers Inn.
Yeah, those boys got together and, we dealt with them on events in the past, helping them with a bunch of stuff. And they did a moto run, essentially. They got 60 or 70 bikes together and pub crawled through the country, just having a feed. And it was exactly the same thing in a way as a barbecue and chill, getting boys out doing something under the guise of having these chats. And I think it's opened my eyes to all the different ways you'd be able to do this. So whether it's moto runs, whether it's barbecues in the park, or it's going to events, or it's whatever it is, if we're doing this all the time, it keeps the conversation current and present and there. Like, it's all well and good to do Are You OK Day one day a year. It's cool. But how can we incorporate it into the guys' lives? So they're just seeing snippets. We don't want to weigh them down with sad, heavy stuff every day of their life. But how do they know there's always support there? Because, that dog comes creeping in the middle of the night, and you need to know and be reminded enough that you go out and you reach out the way that you need to.
And I think that those walls are being broken down. But the reason we're doing it in the ways that we're doing it is the walls are only being broken down to a specific type of bloke.
People keep reaching out too, which is cool because they're coming in and giving us, opening our eyes to other ways that we can help people. I had this lady emailing us maybe 3 weeks ago, and tragic story. Unfortunately, she lost her 22-year-old son in a car crash. Him and his partner both passed away. And she expressed heartfelt care for his mates. And obviously she was dealing with her own grief, but she said, I don't think these young kids know how to deal with it. And I think you might have something to say. And she asked if we could hand over some resources that she could put up at the wake. They went to his favorite tavern, celebration of life. And, that's something that was on our mission plan. We want all these resources for people. So I, got to work and I started putting together, a few things about dealing with grief, how to get help, the importance of community. And I think that's something that we'll be able to definitely expand the charity into, better servicing situations like this, whether it's at a situation that heavy or whether it's just, being present in the workplace or doing things like that. But yeah, she was super grateful. And I think the ability to help kids go through something like that is something I didn't expect that Better Bloke was going to bring. And within 6 months, that's there. I think it's crazy powerful.
Yeah, I think some of the tools that we're able to start offering people in such a short period of time is that realistically it affects their lives moving forward. So it's that whole message behind why we've named the project what it is. It's Better Bloke. We're bettering people by giving them these tools to help with whatever it is that they're going to face. So I went through the grief tools that you delivered and you knocked them out of the park. So that gives me so much faith in everything else that we're going to do. We're not going to miss.
Yeah, and I'm not pulling that out of my ass too. Like, it's not like I wrote down my opinions. Like, I'm sitting there doing proper research. I'm reading psychological studies, but then I'm changing it into the tone and the language that we know that these guys need to be spoken to in. And that's kind of what the Better Bloke Project is. Like, you can, you're not going to read a psychological study when you're just lost your best mate and you're 20 years old.
We don't need to. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. So, yeah, I love it. I love it. It's good impact. And that kind of leads on to other things that we said we were going to do at the start. And they seem a lot more real, a lot more within grasp now. So I think we should talk about some of them because they're going to be getting rolled out over the next, say, 6 months, 12 months, depending on, I guess, how everything goes. But a big one, workplace training.
Yes.
Now, tell us, because we started this conversation before the project even happened because some people reached out to us. And do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do. So there was a transport company down in New South Wales that reached out to us to come down and deliver some workplace training because they've recently had a whole bunch of accidents in the workplace. So we started working on, I guess you would call it deliverables, to speak to blokes in that environment. Mainly just about fatigue management, general well-being, and whatever it else is that is going to help men in the workplace. And that's what we want to do. We want to deliver that. Obviously, we have been bombarded with a lot more work than we anticipated with how many people are reaching out to us. So all these plans that we had to get the workplace trainings up and running by this point, I'm not going to say they take a back burner, but when we've got people speaking to us then and there, we're not going to push them aside to work on, I guess, workplace training. We're going to speak to the people that are speaking to us then and there that we know we can help face to face. So it is something that we're working on in the background, and it's coming along nicely, but obviously we want this to be 100% before we roll it out.
Something else we want to start doing, and it's a bit of a brainchild of yours, is, I guess, living what we're telling people to do and actually showcasing it. So we've covered like all the different things people say, whether it's like the kooky ones like ice baths, or it's actual proven methods like exercise or meditation, or there's a million different things that are supposed to help guys either be more present, be more mindful, relieve anxiety, stuff like that. And you wanted to start living them out and actually doing them and like almost reviewing them in a sense so guys can get an idea of what it might mean to them to do it.
100%, because I think that because both of us do tick that box of what a bloke is, why not go out there, try what people may refer to as alternative therapies or different ways of improving your well-being. Why don't we go out there and try them firsthand and review them and let them know how we feel doing it?
Yeah. So
there's no right way to feel good.
Yeah, we'll give it a crack. So that's something that's coming pretty soon. So if you jump over to the YouTube, make sure you're watching the video version of this. Not make sure you're watching it, but make sure you're over there checking it out, knowing it exists, because that's where these videos are going to be, sort of external to the podcast.
Hit subscribe. You'll be notified whenever we start posting those. And it is a free way to support the Better Bloke Project. Along with everything else we're doing, it's going to be on the website. You can hit donate. You can come along to events. You can follow us on all the socials.
I'm just keen to see you in a float tank.
I'm not against going in a float tank.
I'm super for it. I'm keen to start doing these things. Some people swear by it. So that's the thing. If someone swears by it, is making a big impact on their life, we're not going to dismiss it, right? If someone says this works for them, let's try it. Let's see what we think. Because as we've said time and time again, blokes react differently to different things. What works for one bloke is not going to work for the other blokes. And that's pretty much, the idea behind testing those things.
And if you're feeling low and you go out and try something, it doesn't work, you're not going to feel any lower than what you were before. Hence why we're trying to do what we're doing.
Yeah, nothing to lose. And that's, the amount of times we've told people that. Like, if your baseline is bad, the worst case scenario is you still feel bad.
Why wouldn't you go out and give everything a go to try and feel better?
Give it a nudge. And on that one, guys, thanks for following along all this stuff that we've been doing. Man, we're super excited to, see where this thing goes over the next couple months. We got a bunch more events. Jump to the Facebook page, Better Bloke Project, and go to the events tab, and you'll be able to see all the events. By the time this comes out, we'll have even more up, more barbecues and chills. We'll have stuff like summer nights. There's heaps of events going on, as well as those collaborations that we're doing with people on their events too. So we can get you involved in all sorts of cool things happening all over the country. So make sure you jump over to there and stay up to date on our socials, our email list, all those things so you don't miss anything, because we don't want to hear that you wish you were there.
And we are hearing that a lot. If you're liking what we're doing, hit a 5-star review. Let us know what you think, because It's the best way for more people to get around what we're doing. And we really, really appreciate it. On that note, be better. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Better Bloke. If you got anything out of it, show some love by dropping a 5-star review below.
If you want to learn more about everything we're doing, head to the description, hit the links and follow us on the socials. If you want to learn more about the project, head to betterblokeproject.org.